In this segment, we're going to talk about fractions, and we're going to talk about subtracting fractions, and we're going to talk about subtracting proper fractions with common denominators and different denominators. So our first question is 3/4 minus 1/4. We already have common denominators, so we can go ahead and subtract them. Again, just like in addition, we want to make sure that the students understand that before we can add or subtract things, or compare things for that matter, something has to be the same. And in the case of adding and subtracting, it's easier to make sure that the denominators are the same, so we already have common denominators, so we can go ahead and subtract that. So the first one we're going to do is we're going to use it in the fraction blocks. So there's our 3/4. Our double pink is our whole. So 1, 2, 3 out of the 4. So we have 3/4. We're going to take away one of these quarters. So there it is. I take it away, and I'm left with 2/4. 2/4 is also the same thing as 1/2. So we could say this is 2/4, or we could say it is 1/2. So there's my yellow, which is 2/4. Our yellow is also known as 1/2. And so 2/4 divided by my magic 1 of 2/2. And the reason why I use 2/2 is because it takes 2 reds to make a yellow. And so that's why I'm using the 2/2, and that gives me 1/2. So 3/4 minus 1/4 is equal to 2/4, which is also the same as 1/2. And if we were using the area model that we talked about before, here's my square that's 1 by 1. I've cut this into 4 equal size pieces. I've shaded in 3 of them, and I want to subtract 1/4, so I subtract 1/4. I'll make that go away, and that leaves me with 2/4, and as again we have 2/4 is the same thing as 1/2. The other way of using this array model, as we showed before, since they're all quarters, we could just pull it away like we did before, but sometimes when we had different denominators, we had one going in one direction and one going in the other, so I can show you that same thing for subtraction. Here's my 3/4 going vertically, and from that I want to subtract 1/4 in the horizontal manner. And so I've divided my 1 into 4 pieces, and I draw one across in this direction. And it says I want to take this 1/4 away from the 3/4. So what I can do is I could take this, I can turn it around, and put it on here, and when I take that away, I want to take away this one and the underlying one, and that's going to take away, sorry for that, that's going to take away the yellow, and it'll also take away the underlying green. So that's going to leave me with, well, again, 2/4 or 1/2. So here's a new question. 1/2 subtract 1/3, or I'm going to take away 1/3 from the 1/2. Or 1/2 minus 1/3, all have the same meanings. And again, we have to talk about making sure our students understand what the subtraction sign means. If our students are old enough, we talk about integers, we could also talk about I have positive 1/2, and I also have negative 1/3, what would happen with that. But that's a little bit more advanced. So here we are, proper fractions, but with different denominators. So the first one I'm going to do is my fraction blocks. Since it's a proper fraction, I can keep that is my 1. I don't have to go to the double pinks, but I'll show those as well. And if I have 1/2, that's a red, and I want to take 1/3 away, which is a blue. So if I want to take a blue away from a red, I can't really do that because they're not the same shapes. And again, as I said before, if I want to subtract things, they have to be the same kinds of things. So I want to take a blue, which is my 1/3, away from the red. I can see that I'm going to be left with a triangle. So my triangle is equal to 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, so I'm going to have 1/6 left over as my answer. But in order to show this the way that we would want to in the symbolic method, we'd have to change them to common denominators. And in our picture that means that since I have different shapes, I have to change them into shapes that are the same. So I can change this red circle, into this red trapezoid into green triangles, and I can change this blue parallelogram into green triangles as well. And so now I can take these 2 away from these 3. So if I take this one away from this one over here, that one's going to go away. And if I take this one and remove it from this one, those 2 are going to go away. And so on, what I'm left with is my 1/6. And symbolically, that might look like this. And so I've taken my 1/2 and I've modified it and renamed it to 3/6. And the reason I did that is because this is my 1/2. I was changing it into greens. It takes 3 greens to make a red, so therefore I'm using my magic 1 as 3/3. I'm also changing my blue into greens. There's my 1/3, which is my blue. It takes 2 greens to make a blue, so I'm using my magic 1 known as 2/2, and that's going to give me 2/6. So 3/6 minus 2/6, there is my question there, and it gives me with 1/6. And if we're using the array model, I've got my 1/2 shaded here in yellow, so there's my 1/2, and it's made up, and if I divide this whole thing, it's 1/2, it's made into 2 sections, and 1/3, 1, 2, 3/3 makes another one, so it's 1 by 1 box, shaded in half. I could draw them in a cross here and cut them up, so this yellow is actually made up of 1, 2, 3, 6, and that's where we get our 3/6 concept from. And from that I want to subtract 1/3, so my blue section here is my 1/3 section. It's going horizontally, and I've got 1 out of 1, 2, 3 sections, so there it is, my 1/3 section. It's made up of 2 sections as well, 1, 2, and that's why it could also be classified as 2 out of my possible 6, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, so I could rename it as 2/6. So there it is with our common denominators yet again. And then when I go to subtract it, I want to take away my 2 blues away from the yellow. So what I'm going to do here is I'm just going to take this and take the 2 pieces that I have here and cut them up. And so now I'm going to take my 2 pieces and cover over the 2 pieces that I have here, and therefore if I take these 2 pieces away, I'm left with just this one yellow piece here. And so therefore 3/6, which is my big yellow piece, take away 2/6, which is my big blue piece, is going to leave me with one yellow piece down here, which is 1/6. And so in this segment, we've shown how to do subtraction of fractions that are proper fractions. First of all, with common denominators, and we did that with the fraction blocks, and we also did it with the array model. We also talked about subtracting fractions that are proper fractions that have different denominators. We showed how to do that with the fraction blocks and how we could show changing it to a common denominator before we subtract. And we've also shown it with the array model and how to use that to show how to subtract and how that converts over to common denominators as well, and how we get our answer using the array model.